What up, meatheads? It's Travis, American Butcher, and this is a brand new episode of the Meat Block Podcast. We're talking about color coding, food safety, allergens, HACCP. All the ways that you could help identify and prevent cross-contamination. Using a simple color-coordinated program to best fit your plant's needs. Thank you. So in this episode of the Meat Block Podcast, I'm joined by TLiz Stasiewicz from Bunzel Processing Division and Matt Morrow from Remco. Again, to talk about color coordinating, food safety, and lean manufacturing. Thank you and enjoy.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. In his way, the meat cutter is an artist. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
Give me the elevator pitch of you, Matt, and then and what you can do, and then we'll kind of evolve from there. And Liz, I haven't forgot about you. We'll do the same as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. My name is Matt Morrow. I'm live and based here in Memphis, Tennessee. I been with Remco Viken for a little over 6 years. I started in a different world in food and manufacturing companies, supporting them from a distributor standpoint. So I supported several different brands and accounts here in Memphis, kind of got an affinity for the food processing world, and then made the jump over to the manufacturing sanitation side of things with Remco Viken, really kind of focusing on color-coded sanitation tools, material handling tools, really focused in the food manufacturing sector.
Okay, awesome. And then is your name, last name pronounced Morrow, like the marrow bone, or is it?
No, it's Morrow, like
okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. And then Liz, same question, elevator pitch about you and your role in the company, and
Yeah, for sure. So I'm actually finishing up my 5th year at Bunzel Processor Division right now.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the company about 5 years ago in the purchasing team and made my way up through COVID to import buying. Fun times, of course, trying to figure out where our items were coming from China and whatnot when the world was obviously ending.
Mm-hmm.
Then ended up, being promoted into category management and on the cleaning and hygiene side of things and material handling. So that's kind of where my home is now. Plan to be here for a while in this category and kind of owning it and being able to have, being the ultimate knowledge for our team and for our company as far as this category goes. As far as category management, I do vendor negotiations. I do price negotiations, all that kind of stuff. And, escalated problems come to me and whatnot. So I'm more so basically the liaison in the relationship between us and the suppliers that we have. So it's great to have experience. Earlier I had previously purchased, the Remco line when I was a buyer. So I have a little bit of, experience with that. So it's been a pretty good transition. So, yep, happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining and being a part of this conversation. And then here's just I'm going to throw this hypothetical out because as we know, there's so much grant money that what COVID really taught us about the meat food supply chain is that there were some flaws, and that so now that there's grant money to help small farms, small processors, which means that skilled labor as far as HACCP or meat cutters and all that, it's a smaller pool. So if I'm opening up a new, let's say, plant that does chicken, beef, and pork, and I approach you and I say, I don't know what to do, and I just know that cross-contamination is a thing, and I took a weekend HACCP test or class, but I'm still very green, and what I need your advice. What advice would you give them, Matt?
So I think if you really kind of think about color coding, obviously what you said is preventing cross-contamination and cross-contact. Having this different species, you'd want to separate out the different species with probably a single color. Color can be used in a few different ways. It can be, you can use color in your facilities by area of your facility. You can use it, identifying the warehouse or the processing area or the common areas. You can also use color by zone. That would be kind of your food contact, zone 1, 2, and 3, food contact, the equipment, and then the floors and the walls. But in the meat processing world, you would really use color more for the processing side of things. So if you think about really having two colors, you'd have that raw side of things, and then you would separate from there with cooked, semi-cooked, kind of ready to eat, the whole other side of the house. So after processing, all tools and sanitation equipment would need to get changed over and have a different color for that processed kind of cooked side of things. So I would suggest really kind of looking at, if you're a facility that has multiple species like that, a raw for each of the 3 species, right? And then cooked or semi-cooked color for the other side. So it's really kind of a 6-color program inside of that facility. I think that's from a high level thing. I mean, does that make sense in what you would understand? Okay.
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is like you do for chicken, it'd be one color dedicated for the raw product. And then if you're doing a finished shelf stable or anything like that, or not even shelf stable, but like a chicken
Cooked.
nugget, like in your final product before it goes into packaging, after it comes to the food former, would be a completely different color that is corresponding with that, and that everyone would know. Color 1 is for this. Color 2 is this. If you deal with color 2, you don't wear the clothes you wore with color 1.
You could even get into in these. A lot of these facilities are so wet, right? So you could really even get into the color of changing the color of their gowns. Even so, if we're sticking with the chicken side of things, if it's the raw side, let's call it red. So that team is in red gear, red aprons and sleeves potentially. And then the blue side be kind of that cooked, a little more prepared side of things in blue. So they would have blue gear on. So visually, using color like that just makes compliance a whole lot more simplified. It really makes it so, in these facilities, you're going to have, potentially some high turnover. So if someone's new on the floor and getting their feet wet, it makes their job, you can align their tasks and their tools a whole lot easier using color.
Yeah, literally getting their feet wet.
Literally, yeah.
And then is there standard colors? Like typically this color means this, or typically that color means that?
Yeah, there's not.
Okay.
You do see in facilities. It's not dictated, but a lot of people just use white for food contact. That's kind of if you want to call something a standard. Drains traditionally are black. So if you think about your drain cleaning program, those are usually going to be the black tools. But it is not dictated. It's not a standard anywhere. But you do, like I said, you see those occur over and over and over again.
Yeah. And then Elizabeth, what are some of the products that, say, I have a list of, or I approach you saying I'm opening up a plant, and what can Bunzel offer me that you have in house, and just be like, well, I'd recommend this or recommend that, or etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would actually send in one of our sales reps, and if it's a full-blown conversion, we might also have someone from Remco come in as well, just, to help with the knowledge side of things. But we'd send in a sales rep, and they would basically go through every item that is used in the plant, and or, basically catch up the new plant up to speed on things. And basically, I mean, we offer scrapers, spatulas, brooms, handles, everything that you could possibly need, you know, in all different colors of the rainbow. So if they truly do have, you know, 10 different processes, they're able to have a color dedicated to those different processes. This is actually pretty interesting for me that we're talking about this, because I'm actually gluten-free, not by choice, not by choice. And so, so it's pretty interesting to me just to, you know, hear about this, you know, going on behind the scenes as well. And, you know, being this close to the product and, you know, how facilities do that. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of heavy, like, production facilities out there that do have, you know, a separate gluten-free line in order to be able to put that label, you know, on their packaging and whatnot, because I'm pretty sure that you have to be, you know, have to have your whole separate line. There's no levels of cross-contamination. And obviously with the color coding, that obviously helps a great deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when you see something that this plant was, or this product was processed in a plant that may contain, that doesn't even help from a legal standpoint. So,
right.
Yeah. And even Liz brings up a good point. So the gluten-free side of things, you know, usually when we go into facilities, there's some questions and things that we need to understand as far as unique allergens inside of a facility. Are they have a gluten-free line? Those can all potentially be additional colors needed for supporting gluten programs, allergen programs, whatever they want to call out. So yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, because it's more than, obviously you could find a solution way more than raw to cook to species, and especially with sesame about to be recognized by the USDA
number 9.
Yeah, as a allergen. I imagine things are going to get really busy for you guys, because a lot of plants haven't had to prepare for that new allergen.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I think though that that having a wide variety of colors in your line is something that really helps out, because we go into even ingredient companies that just all they do is different ingredients. So you're going to have a tool line, but then they may have a whole scoop program that's aligned to different ingredients. So we do 12 colors, which is a lot. So we're able to support complex programs. Everything we do comes in red, white, blue, yellow, and green. Those are always kind of your core colors, but we range off into an additional set. So it absolutely can get complex in some of these facilities.
Yeah, and you think about the one thing when you have allergens and you have all these allergens, that doesn't mean one color for all the allergens. It means that you know, someone with a wheat allergen may not have that sesame allergen, so you can't combine those colors. That you would have to have a color separating peanuts, color separating wheat, soy, shellfish, and the other ones that I can't name off the top of my head.
And it's so in some instances, if they're using like in some dairy facilities, milk, but it's not a unique allergen, it's in everything. So you don't really have to call it out. So it's where there's instances of unique allergens. Let's say if it's a candy company that runs chocolate, or they have some candy, and then they, like instance I told you where I came from yesterday, they were running a product that had peanuts in it. So we had to have an additional color to support them. So it could be segregated by unique lines and equipment, but they may run the allergen product on the same equipment. So we need to make sure that using the right cleaning color when changing over the lines.
Yeah, and that's super important, because with cleaning equipment, a perfect segue into this topic. It's I remember when I was first starting off years and years ago, and someone's like, "That's the floor squeegee, and that's the condensation squeegee." And they looked the exact same to me, and I didn't know why. And, you know, years later, I know why. And years later, I made one color, one the other color, because the floor is lava, and you don't want anything that touches the floor to touch anything else.
Right.
So in the janitorial sense, having multiple colors is huge. Because
I mean, if you think, sorry to interrupt, if you think about it too, I mean, we're talking about processing areas of a facility.
Mhm.
You definitely don't want, if you think about people using a color to call out their common areas or cafeterias or even the bathrooms. I mean, so you definitely don't want that bathroom drain brush showing up in your bottling line thinking it looks the same. It's the same instance as your squeegee. It's potentially the same tool, but man, we got to call that out because we don't need toilet brush being bottling brush.
Yeah. That's certainly true. And then Elizabeth, what are the what kind of brushes or what do you offer as far as product lines through Bunzel?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically anything that Remco sells, we offer. So we are able to be customers' one-stop shop. I mean, even scoops and shovels and all that kind of good stuff as well. And as far as, the squeegees and the brushes, there's all different types of brushes. There's ergonomic handles on those brushes. And correct me if I'm wrong, like it's the, how are the brushes, the bristles seamed to the, is it like an,
yeah, there's so we have a couple different bristle types. There's a good chunk of the line is that traditional drilled and stapled bristle into the block. There's very little room for contamination. It's easily cleanable, and from there you can kind of have different bristle types, softer bristles, medium, split. We have a large variety of those. I think what you're talking about, Liz, is our UST line, which is really the most critical areas of your facility where cleanliness is utmost importance, the highest level of hygiene. Those the bristles are actually molded directly into the block. Yes. So they don't. So if you think about bristle retention, bristles coming out, that is much stronger setup. Also, the way the bristles are formed in pods, if you look at it, it's kind of a different looking brush, but it actually is a more efficient cleaning. And then when you're done cleaning, doing your task of cleaning, it's always important to come back and clean the cleaning equipment because you don't want that brush to now be the vehicle to move bacteria around your facility. So always clean your equipment afterwards. But that UST line is going to be easily cleanable because visually there's gaps in it that you can really see that you're doing the job.
Yeah, and Travis, I didn't know if you knew that a lot of our plants, they actually have an outside company that comes in, overnight or when the last shift ends, and they come in and deep clean the entire facility, and that's basically their job. They're not the the production facility. They're actually the cleaners behind everything, and and some of those customers are actually some of our largest ones due to the fact of, our Jan Sand side of things and what we can offer, to clean product.
Yeah, that's huge too, because I worked with a janitorial company in the past, and they came in with their own their SDS sheets for every single thing they use. They came in with a pre-op guarantee, and and I don't know as far as color coding, but it was a very pleasurable experience, and they were very knowledgeable. So knowing that a lot of those companies reach out to you or anyone listening or anyone thinking about getting a third-party cleaner, that a lot of them know their stuff and hopefully would know what to ask for after listening to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings so we talked about allergens, mixed product when it comes to species separation, and then raw versus cooked. But there's really there unfortunately in this industry, in the part I work in, there's harvesting as well, which is the polite way to say it. And so your tool, that side is a little bit more messy, a little bit more wear and tear. So the having the bristles formed in that certain way, what are the longevity and how often would you recommend swapping out certain things, not because of necessarily wear and tear, just because of a standard practice?
Yeah, I think that these tools are meant to be replaced over time. They're not meant to last forever. I think that with the maintenance and the cleaning of the cleaning equipment, if we're just using the tool over and over and over again and not cleaning it after use, or really properly storing the tools, is always kind of a big thing, because you can go in facilities and brooms are laying on the ground. There's dustpans everywhere. There's brushes just put onto equipment. I think when you have proper storage, and what we do is we align the color to the storage. So for some brackets that you want to put in proper areas of the facility for easy access, if you're in, let's say it's the raw area or the earliest point of the processing area, if those tools are red, we're going to put those on red brackets. Our brackets are nice in that when properly mounted, you can clean behind it. When you're cleaning your facility, they really line up and keep your standards in place. So I think that proper storage is always going to be a big thing. It's really hard to say how long a tool will last. Mm-hmm. I think that what we run into a lot is that question right there. Hey, well, if we're buying your tools, how long are they going to last? Well, it kind of depends on how often you're using it, how properly you're cleaning it and storing it. But over time, a bristle will wear out. The key thing for a lot of these facilities too is understanding that they kind of have to have some standards in place on their own to say, hey, if it's a team lead or someone, there should be some practices in place that say, hey, I'm going and auditing my area weekly, however frequently they determine, but this broom is not as effective as it used to be. I can visually see these bristles are splaying out. This handle is bent or cracked. I think that if there's some programs in place that say, hey, and they're enabling the team to say, this broom is really not as effective as it used to be. We need to pull this out of service and put one back in. So lifespan is tough, but I think it all kind of depends on, what they're doing and their steps that they're taking to take care of their equipment.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I can definitely attest to the fact of even being the buyer of this line previously before I was category manager, and even now being category management, I really never received complaints about, the quality of the product. If anything, it's been all good things. And, that there is, depends on, like you said, what you're using it for, depends on the lifetime of it. But at the same time, at the end of the day, the product has great quality, and literally, like I said, no complaints about it. And it's just overall great. Yeah,
and I would say that, certainly making sense that depending on the use, if you're, it's repetitive motions will have wear and tear on certain things, but it's just as important to have your cleaning crew have a checklist, and you're going to have good operational sanitation procedures that will allow you to overlook these tools, because last thing you would want is something to be neglected that may compromise your process. But the good thing about the bright colors and all that is that in having a program in place that you'd be able to spot that easily. So.
Yeah, it makes the auditing process a whole lot easier and simplified, right? If you're, looking for a specific tool and it's in the wrong area, it's easily, to bring it back into the right area. It could potentially be contaminated though at that point. So again, you got to kind of pull that out and replace it with a proper tool. And again, when these tools get on the floor, you have to clean them before they get put into use. It's not just pull it out of the pack and throw it on the wall. You gotta clean the tools, inspect them before they're coming out of manufacturing and we're packaging them and sending them out. But there's a step that needs to happen to make sure that the tags and the labels are taken off. We don't, they're properly cleaned and sanitized, then they're put in and ready to go. So inventory and keeping those things ready to go, because again, the whole idea around color is preventing cross-contamination. If a tool is contaminated, you got to pull it out. So do you have something ready to go? That whole mindset of that inventory piece is critical as well.
Yeah. And go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, I was going to say how there's just a lot of thought process that goes behind, the making of new products. So, anytime Remco comes out with a new product, there's the thought process behind it is even, all the little spaces and the grooves, if they usually make things without them. And for that being so that way, there's less places, to harbor that bacteria. So, in category management, that's what I try to look at to make sure that, the cleaning is easy and that there isn't no hidden spots or places that people are going to forget to clean or be able to, you should be able to use your finger to clean out a groove. And that's, general rule of thumb. And Remco makes it super easy by making sure that there's really no, hidden spots for, our secret friends in the bacteria world to get in there.
I know. And so when you're going into a new plant or someone who's switching over to your line, you're working almost hand in hand in the beginning with the quality control team to give them suggestions on chemicals to use to clean these tools. Are there limitations on that, or even the frequency or anything? Are you giving guidance to QC? I mean,
well, a lot of times they have those standards in place already. What we'll do is we can come in and let's say they have an existing program and they want to enhance their program. They maybe want to add a color to their program. They may want FDA compliant tools. They may want to make that jump, understanding that the cleaning and sanitation equipment is not up to standards. We would need to invest and make the transition over to FDA compliant materials. Like you said earlier, having those SDS sheets when people come in for the chemicals. Our tools, we can provide FDA documentation for all the tools saying, hey, everything that is made, every part of this tool, the construction has all been FDA approved and documented. So having that on file or having it on hand, it's not a requirement, but it's something that we can provide to say, at the beginning of a potential SQF audit or BRC audit or whatnot, you can, when addressing and looking at the sanitation material handling tools, if you've got that information on hand, sometimes auditors potentially could understand, all right, you're on top of your program, let's go look at something else. So it just is a great way to really enhance your existing program.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what auditing is, say you want to be in a certain market, those certain markets may require of a third-party audit. And I've gone through 3 of them, and they're intense. They're not horrible, but having more data or more information to validate why you're doing something one way is something that they really look for versus clean. So, they don't like that answered. So let's talk about talked a little bit about brushes and scoops and things, but what other products do you offer? What other products does Bunzl carry and that you guys offer in your line?
Sure. So the nice thing about working with the Bunzl team is they carry everything that we make. So the wide range that we make, it's easily available through them. So you talk about really starting down 2 different lines. There's a material handling side of things, and then there is the sanitation hygiene side of things. So focusing on material handling, that would look at shovels, scoops, some totes, some one-piece poly scrapers, things of that nature. The sanitation side of things is going to be more of the hygiene line of bristle tools, brushes, brooms, push brooms, angle brooms, the squeegee side of things, all of the handles. And I think if you think about ergonomics and the repetitive action of cleaning potentially in certain areas, having tools that are ergonomically designed is going to be something that everyone is going to benefit from, because you're not using a shorter hand. A tall operator could potentially be using a shorter handle over and over and over again, create back problems. Things could evolve from there. So having the ability to have different handle lengths makes it to where you can really fine tune and have the right tool in place for the right operators. We use different materials in our lines. A lot of a lot of our tools are polypropylene. We use stainless blades. We have different bristle options. The handles can be one piece, ultra hygiene. They can be aluminum. We have some stainless options. But the big thing for the way our tools are designed is that Liz had kind of leaned into it a little bit earlier, is the hygienic design of the tool. There's really no place on the tool for water to stand and for bacteria to form. So even all the way down to the holes on the handles to where you would hook a brush or hook, it's tapered and fall in kind of raindrop shape. So if there's water in there, it's rolling off. The surfaces are smooth. There's no nooks and crannies anywhere for water to stand. They're easily cleanable. So having that hygienic design tool is a big piece of what we do as well. I mean, having the big product line supports any challenges that may come the way, but knowing that the whole line is hygienically designed is a big piece.
Okay. That's awesome. And knowing that they're designed to not hold water or that the wick off is huge, because stagnant water is not the best. Probably the worst. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
And then Liz, hypothetical. I just came into a bunch of grant money and I want to have a small plant, and I don't let's say X amount of numbers. It's on what, but I don't know anything about this, and I contact you. Are you able to walk me with a checklist or point me in the right direction? Like, oh, you need this, broom, scrapers, material handling, scoops. What kind of product are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on the size, we actually have a department, for our catalog customers. And those are more so like the smaller mom and pop, shops and production facilities that they still use, the catalog to order from. And, we have, we'll get a sales rep assigned if, questions go further out and what people need and whatnot. But, we have our sales reps that are, more so the specialists in the production facility as they walk through, and they're able to also help you with that and make sure you have the right, tools to use. And, you don't need people just always using their hands, and especially they're going to need scoops and stuff like that. So normally we would go in with a sales rep, and then depending on the size of the facility and the questions that are needed, we would also bring in someone from Remco, and or depending on what they were looking for and what they were needing, we would bring in another specialist to make sure that they were all up to speed and with a checklist. So
and are you both seeing a intake in small producers or large producers, or people scaling right now?
Yeah. So actually, it's funny you say that. So through COVID, with all like the meat processors kind of, going in and out of shutting down only due to the fact of, outbreaks in their facilities. And they're, every now and then we kind of had a little meat shortage scare due to that. And we actually saw a lot of the mom and pop butchers and production facilities actually like gain speed during that. And it kind of gained some loyal business from your local customers, and it made it so people wanted to support local because, times were precedent. So it's like, people wanted to support their local businesses. And with that being said, sometimes you get that friendly, what you're getting, the nice cut, and it's more so about the relationship and the experience then. And people, I think, are valuing that, a lot more too. And especially, if you can just walk down the street and go to your local shop and, you have your friend there now that you've made through COVID, and we saw an upscale in that for sure. And, still the loyalty, behind us, just, going to the grocery store and getting, the big box production facilities, meat and products too.
Yeah, definitely. I've worked for small to mid-sized producers most of my career, and we've always ordered from you guys. So, and we've always had well, not always. When I was first starting out, it's like the Wild West. But we started implementing, colors for species, and we also had a smoke line of products too. And it was this color was for materials in whip. This was or raw. We had raw whip, cooked, and then final package was our main thing. And when we got audited, they're like the idea of like, well, how do you know that this is going to be used there? And it's like, okay, let's think about that. So we'll add it to our food safety program. Like,
Yeah.
Just the knowing like, oh, well, we know not to do that. Auditors kind of want more than that.
Well, just like you and I too, especially now since COVID, has kind of come and gone, but it's kind of made people realize, cleanliness of even own personal hygiene. I mean, I never used to think to clean the grocery cart before, going grocery shopping, and or like how kind of dirty like the gas pump can be. And I'm like, okay, so if you bring that in from personal life and you go into, your facility, there's more so like double takes on that. And the monitoring is more deep because of the fact that, the food recalls cost a production plant so much money that, it can put them in a world of hurt, so, everyone is, getting more careful, and especially, with the allergen side of things. And, it's funny that we were talking about sesame earlier because my fiance, actually, he has a sesame, cashew, pistachio allergy. So we're a fit to be tied over here, but, sesame seems to be showing up in everything lately. Like it's just gotten super popular. So he's been having to be really careful about that. So it's good to hear that, basically that they're going to start being more serious about that and trying to call that out as well, because some of these allergies, I haven't been gluten-free or celiac my whole life. That just came upon me like maybe, 7 years ago. So more allergens, more, are starting to pop up in folks, and it's time to, be more serious about it. And I'm glad that, the food plants and everyone's kind of getting on board with it as well.
Yeah. And two things that I want to touch on. One is you talked about the grocery cart. Sanitize your handle of your microwave in your break room. That is one that people never think about.
Ew, I didn't even think of it.
So do a swab test. You'll be grossed out. And then also, Liz, what's it like going out to eat when the server says, are there any allergies?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's kind of awkward. It used to be actually more awkward whenever I say I'm gluten-free, just because there's a little bit of a stigma behind that. People were using gluten-free as like a fad diet for a while, when realistically doing a gluten-free diet, if you're not celiac or gluten-free, needing to be due to an allergy is not technically good for you. You are needing those natural grains, those natural things. And I've had, friends and family members that have done a gluten-free diet due to like trying to do it with someone else that, is gluten-free. So they're not alone, or they think that they need to take it out of their diet. Once you take it out of your diet, you're about to make yourself, gluten-free. And, that goes with dairy as well. I mean, I think we all might have a dairy issue. I mean, I love cheese so much, but cheese doesn't love me. Let's say that. But, so we usually tell the waitress, for me, gluten isn't it's cross-contamination I'm usually fine with, just as long as it's a little bit. But there's some places and restaurants that they'll go through and they'll change their gloves. They'll make sure they wipe everything down before, they do my meal. And they'll ask me, they're like, allergy or diet preference. And so when I say allergy, that's when they go through this whole spiel of, and, there's some restaurants that are better than others and more catering. And, it's actually been better being gluten-free over the years due to the fact that, a lot of the menus at the restaurants, already say, and I don't have to assume like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to eat a burger without the bun. Like they'll already offer a gluten-free bun if that's the case, or they're already notate on their menus whether or not it's gluten-free. And as far as the sesame goes, that's going to be huge because I mean, we went out to eat and my fiance got tacos. He got some fish tacos, and lo and behold, he, started having a reaction. His tongue started swelling up and he just started feeling itchy. So, he asked, the manager to come over, and he did. And he's like, is there sesame in this? And the manager was like, no, it's fish tacos, like, no, there's no sesame in that. And so finally they figured it out. They changed to a new sauce that they put on top of the tacos. And the manager went back and read the label, and sure enough, it had sesame in it. So it's more so, I think, an awareness that needs to be brought about too, as well. Just more so the knowledge and kind of teaching people about the different things. And I think more and more people, some of these allergens are, popping up more and more that, and, tomorrow I'll probably have another friend that develops an allergy and then I'll be able to learn more about that. And, all my friends are pretty good about making sure that like when I come over for happy hours, they have a gluten-free option for me, of whether it's, crackers that taste like cardboard or not. But
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, we're a hot mess when we go out to eat for sure.
And the thing about, color coding and things like that is because people, I guess a big part is eliminating the potential if someone's not feeling good is they go back to the plant or someone, complains. So you're like, well, we have this in place. Let's see if anything in the process broke down.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows you to do an elimination step, because that's the thing I always didn't like. You go to like a barbecue, right? And everyone brings something, and then someone's like, oh, the meat was this. And it's like, what about the potato salad that's been sitting out forever?
True. True.
So let's break down, let's try to figure out if something broke down here or if it was just coincidence.
Right.
Because recalls, we talk about the big places, right? Smaller mom and pops can't bounce back, and they may not have the energy because it's like just a few people working there, and they would just be like, I don't know what to do, and then they may just shut down.
Right.
So I think there's many benefits to color coding thing. There's many benefits from sanitation to raw, cooked, allergens. All right, is there anything I'm missing before we end it?
No, I think if we've kind of been focusing on the food manufacturing side of things, there's a lot of people that are color coding manufacturing facilities just from a organizational 5S perspective. Like we want to make go ahead.
Like a lean perspective.
Exactly right. So they would just from an organizational practice, you can see proper tools, everything is set in place. It's a 5S mentality around the facility, and everything is properly stored and put away. So if it's not food manufacturing, as we've kind of focused on that, we see it growing more and more from a 5S perspective. And we mentioned it with the grocery carts a little bit too. It actually started a little before COVID, but food retail and grocery has become a spot where the understanding how important this is around separating seafood, separating the meat departments, separating deli, ready, prepared foods. They're really stepping up their games. Whole grocery chains are rolling out programs where they want better equipment. They want tools that are easy to use. Their operators, sometimes in grocery stores, there's higher turnover. They're younger kids. They don't, they need to have compliance of their programs made easy, and color set up in different areas of the store helps that. So we're seeing it more and more, and it's definitely something that, as we can come in and, like Liz says, we can help support existing programs. They could have problem cleaning areas. They could have a specific challenge, or we need to start from scratch and roll the whole thing out. So that's kind of where our team comes in and helps support Liz. And then, everything from the mom and pop side all the way up to the large facilities as well.
Yeah, because you don't want someone from the meat department of a grocery store being like, I need to borrow a tray from the baker. And then, I didn't even think about lean manufacturing just for everyday manufacturing items, but that would make sense, to have a certain part or a certain thing in a certain color coded bin, or like this color of the warehouse, or this part of the warehouse uses this color,
it could warehouse organization could, if you think about distribution centers, or if you just manufacturing facilities, line 1 is this, line 2, line 3. So, they, Lord knows what they're manufacturing, but if they want to organize their tools, properly stored for operators on those individual lines or in those individual areas, having that lean mindset in the facility is something that we're supporting more and more.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because wasted movement or walking around and looking for something is it sucks. I had to do that. had to look for a screwdriver to fix an electrical plug yesterday at work, and I was like, it's not in its proper place. And then I told everyone, like, this is everyone's problem until we find this screwdriver. I was joking. But,
was it a yellow screwdriver?
It had a blue tip. The blues are Phillips, and then the reds are flats.
There you
go. So one more time, how people could contact you both, and where you work for.
Our team, there's 5 of us that cover United States and Canada. So my area is the Southeast, basically from Texas across. But we're covered in all the areas, and we can pass along that contact information. Again, helping out on site. We can come on site if needed. Sometimes we can just figure out problems over the phone or a conversation like this. As we've kind of talked a little bit about COVID and access to facilities, we've kind of branched off a little bit in some instances where it makes sense. We'll send in a product from Microsoft called a HoloLens, and what you do there is you, through Teams or Zoom, you put the unit on, and we're able to see what the operators see, and then inside the unit, we can bring up tool suggestions. We can have conversations like this while they're wearing. It's not so much a virtual reality, but it's an augmented reality situation. So as facilities kind of limit that access, we're still able to help them support their different programs and challenges.
Awesome. And Liz, your role again and your contact.
Yeah, so absolutely. So category manager for bundle processor division. So we're one of the main distributors for the meat processing industry. So, we love to be everyone's one-stop shop. And, with my contact information, once you end up contacting me, I should be able to direct people in the right direction, whether it be to sales, whether it be to marketing, whether it be to, catalog sales, if it's a smaller customer. And Travis, if you could, are you able to maybe link, Remco's website and our catalog website as well, so people can kind of get the gist of everything and kind of be able to see what's going on and kind of get an idea of what we all offer.
Again, I just want to say a big thanks to Elizabeth and Matt, and all of their information and their company's information will be in the show notes. Until next time, keep your knife sharp and live in the margin. Thank you.